Welcome back to Pest Proof My Home. By now, you've probably heard about the tragic Hantavirus outbreak on the MV Hondius expedition ship. It's a sobering reminder that biosafety begins at the perimeter of your property. This is exactly why we focus on permanent pest proofing. It's about that long-term peace of mind that comes from knowing your home's primary containment is secure and the air your family breathes is protected. Because of the severity of this current outbreak, I've had our team pull the latest 2026 biosafety protocols to see how they apply to residential protection. I'm handing it over to our research lab now for a full deep dive into the science of this aerosolized threat and the steps you can take to protect your home. Make sure you stick around until the very end, because I'll be back to recap the most important takeaways and answer some of your questions. Here is the lab report.
On April 1, 2026, the MV Hondius departed the port of Ushuaia, Argentina, carrying over 100 passengers on a luxury cruise. Weeks later, the ship became a floating isolation ward. Healthy passengers rapidly developed a severe respiratory pathogen. As the death toll climbed to 3, international authorities triggered military hospital protocols and imposed a 45-day quarantine on repatriated citizens. The World Health Organization investigated the cluster, and the test results returned a highly specific diagnosis: Hantavirus. That finding presented an immediate biological contradiction. Hantavirus is typically spread through contact with the urine and feces of specific wild rodents. An outbreak spreading among passengers confined to the sterile decks of an ocean liner goes against the established mechanics of the disease. Health officials had to answer a critical question. Were they dealing with a rapidly mutating respiratory virus mimicking the early days of COVID-19, or was there a highly specific, localized anomaly at play? To understand what went wrong on that ship, we have to look at the strict evolutionary rules this virus normally follows. In nature, hantavirus operates on a strict rule of one rodent, one virus. Specific strains evolve alongside specific hosts, like the deer mouse in North America. Inside these host animals, the virus causes a persistent, asymptomatic infection. Humans do not catch this by getting bitten. The virus is shed constantly in the rodent's saliva, urine, and droppings, drying out on surfaces in attics, sheds, and crawl spaces. The danger activates through a process called aerosolization. If you walk into a dusty garage and sweep the floor with a stiff broom, the bristles fracture those dry droppings. That physical disturbance launches dormant viral particles into the sweeping air currents. Once inhaled, the virus bypasses the upper airway and targets the vascular endothelial cells, the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. As the virus replicates, it causes the tiny capillaries in your body to leak fluid. This airborne delivery system means a rodent infestation creates a localized biohazard. The virus achieves extreme lethality simply through shared air, without ever needing a human-to-human jump. As these rodent hosts migrated across the globe over millions of years, the virus split into two distinct threat profiles. In Europe and Asia, the Old World strains cause hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, or HFRS. The capillary leakage primarily attacks the kidneys, leading to internal bleeding, acute kidney failure, and a sudden need for dialysis to keep the patient alive. In the Americas, a different clinical picture emerged, brought into sharp focus following a sudden cluster of fatal respiratory illnesses in the Four Corners region of the United States in 1993. This outbreak identified the New World variants, which cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Instead of the kidneys, the fluid leaks directly into the lungs. Patients experience rapid respiratory failure, carrying a severe mortality rate of 30 to 50%. Which brings us back to the MV Hondius, sailing out of the southern tip of Argentina. The World Health Organization determined the specific strain infecting the passengers was the Andes virus. The Andes strain is an evolutionary outlier. It is the only known strain of hantavirus on the planet capable of breaking the rules and transmitting directly from person to person through close contact. While the Andes strain explains the rapid cluster on the ship, genome sequencing confirms the virus lacks the rapid mutation rate necessary to trigger a global pandemic. For the vast majority of us, the real threat isn't international travel, it is the endemic risk sleeping inside our own homes. Because there is no specific antiviral cure or widely approved vaccine for hantavirus, Protecting yourself requires a shift in strategy. You have to move past basic pest control and adopt rigorous integrated biosafety. The first line of defense is your home's primary containment barrier. Mice can squeeze through gaps as small as 1/4 of an inch. Sealing those exterior holes with steel mesh and removing access to food and moisture actively starves and dehydrates the virus's ecosystem. If rodents do breach that barrier, you must follow the ultimate public health rule of Hantavirus. Absolutely never sweep or vacuum dry rodent droppings. Instead, professionals use the wet method. Before cleaning, open all doors and windows for at least 30 minutes to ventilate the space. Then, equip yourself with rubber gloves and a well-fitting N95 or HEPA respirator. Next, completely soak the contaminated area in a disinfectant, like a 1:9 bleach and water solution. You let that liquid sit for 10 minutes. This process destroys the virus at a molecular level and prevents any particles from going airborne while you wipe up the wet material with disposable towels. We have the tool to neutralize this threat. By understanding the microscopic physics of aerosolization, we can safely manage the biohazards in our walls and keep the air inside our homes safe.
So what do you think? In my opinion, the situation on the MV Hondius is a sobering reminder that biosafety isn't just a headline, it's a home maintenance priority. While that specific outbreak is making news, remember that our local deer mice in Canada carry strains that are just as dangerous if you breathe them in. My top piece of advice: if you find a nest in your attic or garage, never sweep or vacuum it up while it's dry. That is the fastest way to aerosolize the virus and pull it into your lungs. You have to wet the area down with a professional-grade disinfectant first. If it's a large-scale infestation, don't risk your health. Call a professional who has the specialized HEPA-filtered extraction gear to do it safely. I often get asked the big question: does pest-proofing your home actually work? My answer is always, when done correctly, yes. If you're just throwing down some poison or temporary foam, you're just putting a Band-Aid on a structural wound. But when you switch to mechanical exclusion, using stainless steel mesh, heavy-duty vent covers, and sealing those foundation gaps, you are changing the physics of your home. You aren't just managing a problem, you are removing the invitation. It's the difference between a temporary fix and permanent peace of mind. If you found this deep dive helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us get this biosafety information out to more homeowners. Make sure to check in for our other pest prevention videos, where we'll continue to break down current topics and show you how to keep your sanctuary secure. Until next time, keep your home sealed and your family safe. Let's get to work.